Welcome to Over the Top Podcast. This is a show where we take topics that nobody wants to talk about, but everyone has an opinion on, and we let people get their opinions off their chest. We will literally cover every single topic except arm wrestling. Your host, Steve Matthews, joined by an array of different guests. So make sure you stay tuned in for Over the Top Podcast. What's up, everybody? Steve Matthews, and I'm here today for another Over the Top podcast, and I'm here with the owner and coach of Ronin Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, Ryan Carroll.
Hey.
Well, we've had Ryan on the show once before, but it was audio. Now we're coming to you video, so you get a look firsthand at the Jiu-Jitsu gym. First off, I'd like to point out that who painted all this stuff?
I did.
Be that guy. So all the videos that you've seen previously with all the cool drawings on the wall, that was this guy right here.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of paint, and yeah.
How many times did it take you to do it?
This one wasn't bad. It was the one in the other room was absolutely horrendous. I was probably a week working on it. I think I went through 50 cans of spray paint. I was like, I don't know how in the world these guys who go around tagging all these buildings, what the crap, man? I mean, you got to have a backpack full just to get a design.
Not only tagging, but being able to tag in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, you got 5 minutes, and here you go.
In and out. So, right now, I know that there's currently a tournament going on now that you have a guy at, and then also it just came off a tournament. And how'd you guys do?
Yes, so Cameron, he's down in Ashland, Kentucky, I believe. For Fuji Sports down there, Fuji BJJ, and he's the only one competing today. I'm quite interested in seeing how it goes because I think maybe you've seen too. Half the tournament looked to be outside.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I've did outside tournaments before and it wasn't bad, but it was also in the middle of summertime and it was nice and warm. It's a little bit more chilly and wet out there today.
Well, I think that's the issue. What I saw was it was wet.
Yes.
It looked wet.
Now, granted, we did do a tournament down in Charleston. What was it? I think it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was outside. It was on the beach. And it was the West Virginia Games. And it was so damn hot. The mats outside were being beat down by the sun. And then to top it off, there was sand from the beach on the mats. So you were getting a little bit of sunburn with a little bit of sand burn. And it was a great time.
Yeah, it just ranks right up there with people that say sex on the beach.
Yeah.
That just sounds awful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not into that chafing. But, we got Cameron competing today. And was it last week or week before last? Week before last. 2 weekends ago, we had a tournament down in Charleston, actually, at the West Virginia Games. Everybody did really good. It was a lot of people's first tournament, I believe, minus Stephen Marshall. It was I think his second or third, maybe. But he did really good. Him and Zach both had 9 or 10 matches each. By the end of the day, they were just absolutely torn. And then Cameron, he also competed down there, too. And then we had our 2 young kids. They went down. Slayton. 10 years old. Been doing it for 3 months maybe. Super talented athletic kid. He went down there and he just did an amazing job. Won all of his matches except for against one kid who's an orange belt, and Slayton's just white belt. But he walked away with some gold medals, silver medals. And then our other kid went down there, Drew, who's 12. He went, competed for his very first time. And he did really good, too. I think he walked away with first place, I believe. So I was impressed by him because we was worried about, he has a slight disability, right? Well, I don't even look at it as that. Erb's palsy in his right arm, can't straighten his right arm out. So obviously in jiu-jitsu, that's what we do is arm bars. So you would think this is the worst sport for him to be in. But in all actuality, he did an amazing job. There wasn't even a thought of somebody hurting him or anything like that. And I know that was what the biggest fear was. With his parents and everything, which I can understand. But well, he did tower over all the kids too, so I
Yeah,
mean,
that helps.
it was interesting, because he's like what 6'2", I think, 12 years old, and the other 12-year-old he went
crap.
against was like 4 foot tall.
Holy crap!
Yeah, so huge difference in size.
Wow.
But in Alex, his first match, he went against a female, and she choked him in the first round.
Oh yeah.
And he wound up beat her in the second time they went against each other. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
So now, what got you into? So, you do the adults and everything like that. Were you more excited to do kids as far as training, or?
Yeah, obviously my main focus the whole time, it always has been the kids. For the simple fact that when I was growing up, I was bullied and beat down and picked on and all kinds of crap. Way different than what kind of the bullying is now, because you got the cyberbullying
Right.
stuff. So mine was more physical than anything, and yeah, there was some emotional stuff, but it was just more or less making fun of me because we were church going, no cussing kind of people. But that was my main focus, really, for opening up in the area where we're at, is because I know we're in kind of a lower income area. Um, so my target is, and it always has been, just trying to get to the kids, trying to offer them a place to come, and especially now, with all this crap going on, and not just the COVID, just everything in general,
Right.
giving them something other than running the streets, because, daggone, there's so many of them just 10, 11, 12 years old, running up and down, slinging drugs, doing stuff with their parents, basically following in their parents' footsteps.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's our main goal, anti-bully, trying to give them a healthier lifestyle to look forward to and stuff. And, the adults are just, it's, it's fun to fight, so.
So in the video we posted, it was an interview with you at some point when they were looking into you doing the personal and private classes. How long have you been doing personal and privates? Because I know it seems you were doing that before you actually.
Right. Man, I've done them on and off for quite a few years, but I didn't really get into it as permanent as it has been for like, I'd say 2 years now.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty much 2 years nonstop, privates every day. And, it just started with like one person, and then it just kind of, everybody was like, man, I want to learn more, but I want to, I want my own time and this and that. And so subsequently, now I'm here at 10 o'clock every morning, leave at 10 o'clock every night, and that's 7 days a week.
7 days a week. The lovely owning a business.
Oh, man.
It works out nice.
Yeah. Social life is great. I mean, daggone.
I noticed in the video that I came across was that you were still doing Ronin, but you weren't at a Ronin gym. So where
Right.
exactly did the Ronin come from?
So, we used to be under a couple other different entities because, that's how jiu-jitsu and MMA gyms are apparently.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of float around sometimes until you find someone who meets or fits your criteria. And so what happened is we used to be all under like Hideo, Mike, Pat, Carlson, Gracie. And then it just came to the point I'd say about 3 years ago, we noticed a decline in a lot of different things that was happening. We weren't really happy with our lineages and just different things going on. So when the gym was basically handed over to me, our old instructor, he moved away. So at that point, we didn't have, once he left, I didn't want to stay under that lineage because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It didn't fit our criteria of the MMA aspect. They were more jiu-jitsu strictly based. So the word Ronin came from, I've always been in the Japanese everything, from history to martial arts. So Ronin is, I do believe, I forget what the exact definition is, but it's basically a samurai who no longer has a master, like a rogue warrior or whatever. And that's how I kind of looked at it, us, because we didn't no longer have a person in charge of us. We were just our own entity, and that's how we've felt. And then I didn't feel, I feel that each one of us are kind of in that aspect as far as individualizing. We're all Ronin, more or less, because I don't look at myself technically as like, the man in charge, the master or whatever. So I kind of use that to give everybody, I guess, a piece of it, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. So we're all Ronin.
I got you. Well, I mean, owning the gym and coaching kind of makes you that puts you as the master.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I don't like to look at it that way,
Now, if
but-
I'm not mistaken, so when you guys were under all those and then kind of split away,
Mhm.
multiple people split away from that, correct? And kind of went their separate ways, and
Yeah, it's weird because it even goes back further than that. Like when we first had all of our martial arts schools in the area, we're talking 25, 30 years ago. And we all had our own schools. And then it's weird how, like, we'll have our separate ones, then we combine. And then out of that combination, like, you'll have 4 other schools open up. And then those 2 will shut down. It's just been a continuous thing. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the lineages as well. Where, we all started, like, we had a place at the Y, and then those broke off. Then there was a couple in Marietta. And then at one point in time, right when it got legalized in Ohio, we were doing fights for OXF over there at the fairgrounds. And at that point in time, I do believe we all, at one point, wound up in one gym. It was a short-lived time,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say too much about that because it was it was a cesspool of egos and everything. It was just it was bad news. But essentially, we've all been through the same revolving doors. We kind of broke off from there. We were actually down up at the old True Colors building.
yeah,
So we were there, and then we left off. So somebody stayed there, and then we broke off there and went down to the traffic circle down there by Gabe's and stuff. And then we left from there and then over to Southside, and we were there for, I don't know, 12 years, I'd say.
wow,
Something like that.
man, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Now, is the one on Southside, is it still? They're still operating? Is Mike still doing boxing over there?
As far as I know, yeah. I'm not sure what they're doing.
The jiu-jitsu side is.
Yeah, they're not doing jiu-jitsu anymore over there, as far as I know. I think they said something about a couple of different guys teaching or something, but not jiu-jitsu in general. No, I don't think. I don't really follow their page, so.
Gotcha. So, kind of kick back to the Ronin idea. I mean, I guess when you said that there's so many egos that are involved in it, that kind of falls with the Ronin thing. That there's
Yeah.
not one person that's look at me and
Right, and that's kind of what we like to go by, as far as not just the adults but the kids too. Is, I don't try to put anybody, any higher up than anyone else. I don't consider myself to be any higher than anyone. Obviously our belt ranks, but that just kind of, shows where we're at. But no, I feel everybody's equal. And if they have an ego, then they don't stay very long because everybody else will get rid of it.
yeah, which is a nice thing. I mean, at least you don't come in and
Yeah.
'cause, I know that some gyms, the new person that comes in, it's haze them and beat the crap out of them, and
Yeah.
hopefully they stay if they want it. If they want it bad enough.
Typically, we're kind of opposite, I guess. We're very open arms, I guess, to everybody that walks in until they wind up coming to being in a douchebag.
Yeah.
And if they show up, typically that's their one and only day. And we've had our fair share. We've had our fair share. Well, me in general. For some reason, I'm a nice little target, literally.
Yeah.
And they usually come in and they're like, "I'm going to go with you," and I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever." And oh yeah, we've got some pretty funny stories where people have been put to sleep or just stupid stuff. And
Now, with being in the area that you're in, I mean, how many times have you had somebody come in and think that they're street
man,
tough?
you know, I've never had anybody actually walk in and challenge.
Really?
Now, I've had a lot of people message me, or people will drive by, or
Even better.
oh yeah, like I'll be opening the door up and they're like, "You suck," or something stupid. I've had people send me messages like, "Hey man, I just want to spar and I want you to go as hard with me as you can," and like I just want to see where I'm at, and then I'll just leave. I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, are you wanting to fight? No, no, no. I just want to spar. Okay. Yeah, typically they don't come in. Um, some of them do sign up for classes or whatever, and that's usually how that ends. Is they'll have their one class and they're no longer around.
Now, do you see do you see this gym more as a traditional, or is it more?
Oh, we're definitely not traditional. Uh, uh, you know, uh, I like the idea of tradition, and it's good for the kids. So we do kind of throw a little bit more traditional stuff in with the kids' classes, just because respect and discipline and whatnot. When it comes to the adults, it's hard to do the whole traditional thing with jiu-jitsu mixed with the MMA. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they basically go hand in hand, and I don't expect, you know, like if the same 10 people come in on a jiu-jitsu night,
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect them to act differently on an MMA night. Like
Right.
coming in and bowing and lining up. Now with the kids I will, but like I said, the adults, it's just silly, you know. Because MMA, we all just come in, warm up, and everybody works out. We fight, spar, whatever. And jiu-jitsu class is a little bit different, but yeah, I would say we're definitely not traditional. Um,
I know, like with a traditional style gym, is it more or less disrespectful to come in and basically ask to spar and or roll?
yeah, um, it depends upon the gym too. Like, there's some really hardcore places. Some places like you walk in, like I think there's a gym in New York actually,
Mm-hmm.
where if you walk in and you're any collared belt, they make you take your belt off, and they have a separate white belt with the color stripe of the belt that you have.
So it's more or less they don't not
They
necessarily
won't recognize
believe,
it.
but
Yeah. And yeah, all these, I'd say a good 90% of all the strict jujitsu places. It's, there are some really interesting rules, I guess. And it's very old school. The whole you're not allowed to ask a higher belt rank to roll with you.
really,
Yeah. Like they look down upon that big time. Like, don't ever ask the instructor to roll. I'm like, well, that's just dumb.
right?
Maybe they're timid, but they want to learn. So why, don't put yourself in a hierarchy like that. Like, it's stupid. And then there's other rules of like, if there's two higher belt ranks over here rolling, don't get in their way. I kind of understand that, but in the same token, like, I'm not going to expect like if me and some other, like if me and Matt are, going at it, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden like maybe you and Steven are going at it. I'm not gonna be like, oh, you big guys, you need to go over there and let us little. No, it's silly.
Well, I can say firsthand that coming in and rolling that a lot of times it's nicer to roll with the higher belts because you
Yeah,
get the people that are same, not so much to dog anybody that's the same, but you guys know about the same amount, and you're basically just going full speed at each other.
right.
Versus the higher belt, I can go full speed at somebody else, and then they're just sitting there
Yeah,
hanging out because they know,
yeah,
hey, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. But
yeah. Oh, I mean, I encourage it all the time. I'm like, just find someone, go roll with them. Like, so the whole traditional way of doing that, it's not me. I mean, I know there's plenty of other gyms, and nothing against them. But that's just not me. I figure if anybody wants to roll with anybody, and obviously they're asking for a reason.
mm-hmm.
Whether it's A, to try to pick a fight, or B, try to get better. Either way, I'm open door for it. So
I don't advise anybody trying to come to a mixed martial arts gym and pick a fight.
yeah,
But I reckon that there's some out there.
It's happened. It has happened. I mean, there's been some really interesting people.
Is there anything here that you do pick up as far as tradition that you'd like to stick to, or is it just completely kind of 180'd?
No, I mean, we try to follow like the belt structure.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in a lot of the traditional, basic, simple concepts of jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, the fancy stuff is nice, but I do believe in drilling it over and over and over. Just like, with your striking and stuff, you have to do the same thing. That I do like it, you know, periodically when people, you're supposed to line up and stuff, show your belt rank, especially when you have a lot of new people. If it's just, me and a couple other guys that have been here for a while, typically it's more relaxed because I feel like I'm a douchebag if I'm like, all right, you guys got to bow to me, I mean, I get it, but in the same token,
Right.
I'm like, I'm not worthy, we're not worthy.
Yeah. Let's just fuel your ego just a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to stand. You're going to have to get on your knees, bow down.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I remember growing up in my old karate school. It was very traditional. And I guess it's maybe one of those things like where you done it so long when you were a kid, by the time you're older, you're like, screw that. I'm not doing that ever again, So maybe that's kind of what it stems from, too, because, I mean, they were so strict, like, you had to be there on the dot. If you didn't show up, like, 5 minutes early, like, you were not allowed on the mat. Too bad you're not training tonight. Like, kiss off. So, I mean, it was like you had to be early, bow in, everybody lined up. You had to wait till sensei came in, everybody bowed in, and then, like, so you'd have to bow, they'd turn, then they'd bow again. Then we'd go down to our knees and had to, like, meditate for, I don't know, a minute. And then we'd bow, say something in Japanese. They'd bow again. So, I mean, like, the first 10 minutes was, like, all bowing, recognizing, whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was beneficial because how strict it was. If you've seen Cobra Kai, obviously.
Cobra Kai.
It was very strict like that. Like, I had this little 5-foot-tall firecracker of a woman, and she would beat your ass if you went out of line. I mean, she had no problem putting her foot upside your head, and your parents, what are they going to do? Don't do that to no. It was quite comical. I mean, she was a little firecracker. But yeah, I mean, you never got out of line. Everybody stayed completely quiet, completely still.
Wow.
So I mean, that was a good aspect, growing up and stuff. Unfortunately, now because of everything so mainstream, people just want to come in and train. A lot of them, they don't want to go for the rigmarole of everything, and I get it. TV and movies have ruined it to a degree, like the Karate Kid.
Karate Kid.
Damn Karate Kid.
It is funny that you actually talk about meditation. Fun fact, probably 2 nights ago, after I got done with class here, I went home, jumped in the shower, and decided to finish out stretching and then kind of go do a little meditation. It's been a long time since I've done it. And it was odd because I had music in, and I was just kind of listening. It was just a nice, calm, relaxing music. And it was odd because I felt like it was taking myself to a place that I've really never been before.
Right.
To the point that I don't know how much you feel about the alternate universe as far as spirits and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the best way I could describe it was I felt like I was almost crossing through a veil, and I felt like somebody was sitting right in front of me and just stared, to the point that I couldn't keep my eyes closed anymore because I knew somebody was there, only to open them up and nobody be there. But it kind of put me in a sense. I was like, oh, I don't like where that went.
That's pretty wild. That's like some DMT type stuff.
That was completely sober. That was
just
that was pure Fleetwood Mac and some meditation.
Well, there's your problem. It's Fleetwood Mac. Because they were hiring shit.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Which kind of really puts me in a sense I would love to go try to do an isolation tank.
See, I'd be afraid of what I might come up with. Like,
where your headspace is.
I mean, I meditate, and I know how my dreams are.
Yeah.
let alone something I'm like kind of coherent about. No, I don't think it would end well. Like, I mean, I fight in my dreams all the time. I don't know. I'd probably drown myself or something.
Jeez.
Like,
Well, and I thought it'd be cool just for the sense of, at that moment where it was like my body would not allow me to keep my eyes closed. I
Oh,
had
yeah.
to see what was in front of me, to the point to where you're in that tank and your eyes are open.
yeah. See,
And
there's no escaping unless you like hop out. And
right,
man, I don't know.
but to lose all
That's-
your senses, that would be nuts.
I think actually, who said that he done it? Steven did. Marshall.
Uh huh.
I'm pretty sure he did. He said it was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, yeah, I just can't see myself doing that. I mean, being alone with myself and my thoughts, like,
You get some real bonding with yourself.
oh man, golly, I guess that'd be something that like Albert Einstein or maybe someone would have really enjoyed or been able to use, I guess.
Right.
And I'm sure they probably did something of sorts. All those guys that meditated years and years and years. Maybe that's why.
Get somebody that's very, very highly intelligent. Get like a Nikola Tesla in there
Yeah.
to see what the hell he comes up with.
Oh my God.
Allegedly he just looked up in the sky and saw a blueprint for his,
Yeah.
Tesla coil. Which, by the way, Tesla, did you know that it is a FBI document? FBI.gov. You can look it up. They've released it.
Really.
That says that the Tesla engineers were often visited by spacemen, and they said that Nikola Tesla was actually from the planet Venus and was dropped off to Mr. and Mrs. Tesla in Yugoslavia. And I was like, really?
That's interesting.
I had to go look it up. FBI.gov. 100%. The PDF files are there. If you find it, it's on page 3.
So that's funny that you went to a space thing because just the other day, and me and my dad were sitting there, and I don't know what the hell we were watching, and it had to do with he brought up this idea. He goes, "Imagine this." I'm like, "Okay, Dad, where are we going?"
Where are we going?
Yeah, you always pack a suitcase, right? So he's like, "Imagine this. What if the Earth is basically a grow house, more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
For aliens. Because they just show up and they drop something off on planet and they leave for hundreds of years or whatever. Then they come back and, they pick it and they take it off to another universe of sorts.
Right.
He's like, man, think of all those animals that are in like the deep, deep, deep ocean, the abyss that we don't ever see and we'll never see. Like
Right.
the oceans that are up underneath the Antarctic, the frozen tundras and stuff. Like all these crazy little animals and everything. Like, I'm like, yeah, that must be some good shit, Dad. I mean, no, I mean, it was kind of cool to think about that. I hate thinking about space, man. Because space is one of those things that we are not meant to understand, I don't think. It's so unfathomable.
Right.
Like, I don't think we're ever, whatever or whoever created or however it created itself or whatever, didn't intend, I don't think, for us to be able to understand it at all. Like,
Right.
otherwise, wouldn't the, universes be closer together? We could travel back and forth, communicate, No, they're intentionally like 10 million years away, and you will never see it, like,
But
ever.
we found them.
We found them.
We found them.
We just can't get to them.
Yet.
Yeah.
Well, I love that they constantly type out or send out the hypothetical of, we found so many planets that are just like Earth that are 10 times bigger. We could totally live there,
Yeah.
but it's going to take millions of years to get there.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna be dead. So you're just like, all right, we're gonna pack everybody up, get them on a ship. You're gonna understand. You're gonna live the rest of your life on this ship. You're gonna live the rest of your life. We'll eventually get there.
You know what would work easier? Because they did this in Armageddon. Just put a big old rocket on the Earth and shoot that mother down to whatever galaxy, just throw it off our axis. And we'll all go into hibernation mode for like, a year or whatever.
Yeah.
We wake up, we're on this other planet, everybody's cool. It'd be great.
Well, and it's interesting to me with the whole Earth and all that, and how we've now kind of went backwards, and now think that the Earth is flat. So many people think the Earth is flat and everything like that, and now we've completely went an opposite direction
Yeah.
of what science is. And I understand that it's hard for us to grasp that the Earth is spinning so fast, flying through the Earth, or flying through the outer space, and we're just
Right.
chilling right here doing a podcast.
Well, what baffles my mind, I guess, the biggest baffling for me is you have Earth and all these other little planets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're in space.
Mhm.
You know, the blackness. How far does the blackness go? Everything has an end.
It's supposed to. Supposed to.
So to me, that's what makes it so unfathomable. Because if there's no end, because you can't see the end, you know, it's not like there's a wall.
Right.
So what would be at the end? Nothing. Well, that's already there.
Jesus. It's Jesus. Jesus is there.
Like, I mean, is that where heaven is? You know, like, do we just keep going on and on and on and on?
My personal opinion on that is that I almost think that maybe the heaven is a fourth dimension.
Yeah, it's not a physical. I don't think.
Right.
It's
And because the dimensions, you know, the way they work, you got one dimension, so you're going to go left to right. You get a second dimension. It's basically a bunch of left and right stacked on top of each other. Now you can go left, right, and this way.
right.
Then you take those two dimensions and start stacking them on top of each other. Then you get height and depth. So now we have three dimensions.
Right.
So there's no doubt to me that there's a bunch of three dimensions stacked on top of each other.
Oh yeah.
But the issue is that we can only see in 2D, like that water bottle. I can only see the front and the sides. I can't see that it's there, but I know it is. I understand it. So I think that anybody that's in a fourth dimension can see things in 3D. So they can see through it and see the
Right.
shapes. And basically, if we're just layered on top of each other, here's another 3D world that's right next to us, a parallel universe per se.
Right. Like the movie One with Jet
Yeah.
Li.
So, and somebody that's in a fourth dimension that's able to reach through all the 3D dimensions, you know, it kind of makes me think of more or less like UFO sightings.
Right.
So if you had layers and layers and layers and took a pencil and just ran them right through, this particular layer is only going to see a split second of that.
Right.
It's there, then it's gone. How did that happen? So maybe they have the ability to move through the three dimensions. I don't know. And that I almost think that that's maybe where heaven is you go to a fourth dimension and then you can see everything like, oh shit, I get it now.
Yeah, because you can
Okay.
see from up top.
Right.
And you look all the way down, and we can't see all the way up.
Like I always like to think of, can you imagine an ant's perspective who does live in a 3D world, but for the most part their life is 2D.
Right. Yeah.
And you see a human's foot just swing by you.
right. And it kind of makes you wonder if we're the ants to another person's world.
Correct.
I mean, we could be this little floating ball of oxygen that's floating in saucer water or whatever, you know, like, and we're just waiting to get popped, you know.
Yep. That's the concept that's really hard to grasp as a human. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's funny because when I was a kid, you know, we were very church-going people, and it always came up, you know, well, where's God come from, or how was the earth created? And it was always, you got to have faith. And I was like, well, okay, because you know there was no physical thing showing, you know, whatever. Yeah, it was always very interesting. The answers that were given, you're like, well, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but sure, we'll go with it. I mean,
I don't think for me I don't. There's no doubt that there's some type of creator. Something made this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even if you go all the way back to the very, very beginning when they say the Big Bang, something made the stuff that was in there.
Something had to begin no matter what. Just like there's always an end and there's always beginning. There has to be, because that's, or at least that's what we're programmed to know. There has to be a beginning and an end. I mean, we don't know how far back that actually goes. You know, it could have, you know, been, God, I don't know, billions of years.
And how many times is science constantly disproving itself?
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll be like, "This is facts. We've uncovered this. This is exactly what it is." 20 years later, Our bad.
Oops.
That ain't right.
Pluto's not a planet.
Oh, poor Pluto.
Yeah.
It's just a floating rock now.
Yeah, that's kind of disheartening. That means all my science fair projects were a sham.
And talking about grasping that concept of space, like I actually had a conversation with a guy just the other day talking about money, and I believe if you were to take $1 million, stack it in ones, like if you were to stack it up and then lay it down,
Right.
it's about the length of a football field, is what
Right.
$1 million ones would be. A billion $1 bills stacked up on their edge like that would reach almost 70 miles.
Damn.
And just to grasp
That's
the difference between $1 million and $1 billion, and could you imagine, like, to grasp the concept of that many $1 bills for 70 miles?
that's ridiculous.
And we have trouble grasping the concept of how much $1 billion really is.
Oh, absolutely.
So how in the hell are we supposed to grasp the concept of an infinite space?
Yeah. I mean, that's always blown my mind. The idea of the afterlife and everything else. I mean, I guess that's the other thing that's hard for me to grasp is like, man, there's no way we're only like conscious, for 40 to 80 years, and then we just disappear.
Right.
I feel there's more to it than that. There's got to be. It doesn't make any
Has to
sense
be.
that we live our lives and we build these memories, and all of a sudden you're just never, ever, ever going to be around again. Like,
Yeah.
it's just that's I guess pretty unfathomable to me. Like, there's got to be something. That alternate world of
Got to be.
Jet Li's or whatever. I mean, I'd be cool with that. Like. I'd go kill all my other ones, and I'd be the powerful one. Like, I'd be down with that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I just, with the, parallels, that just blows my mind to grasp that too. Like, what if right now in a parallel universe we're just the king of some shit, and then another one we're getting ready to get tried and killed for some messed up stuff.
I think that's a high probability, honestly. I mean, because to every weird thought or crazy idea, there's always some truth behind it. Something sparked it.
Right.
So it's not far fetched to believe that there is, like, how we say, oh well, we're old souls, or we are our souls connected at one point, hundreds of years ago or whatever. Something's happened to make people think of that. Something's happened to be like, oh well, I used to have an after, this is my afterlife or whatever. I had 10 other lives as a cat and a chicken and a dog. Like, something's had to have happened or taken place or something to give this person that idea. Like, we don't just think of this stuff. Like, you have to have something to antagonize these ideas. Just like a baby when they're born, they don't know anything. Everything is learned through experience or whatever. And it's the same concept. I mean, there has to be some sort of truth to, everything from all these sightings to, afterlife or before life. Or
I'm trying to think of what story it was. I saw a story which, it's hard to tell anymore. People are just quick to try to get their 10 seconds of fame. But allegedly, this 10-year-old kid consciously remembered and told his parents, I am actually so-and-so. I died in the World Trade Center. I was 33 years old. I was married to so-and-so and everything like that. And then they go back and look, and they're like, everything this kid's saying is matching up. Now, and it's hard to trust anything on the internet nowadays, because is it mom and dad going, listen, I need you, we've done research, I need you to read this, and I need you to say this.
Right.
And we're going to get popular. Or is there the possibility that's the real thing?
I mean, he could be a very highly functioning autistic kid too. Like, he scrolled across it one day and like it just picked up, and he don't really understand it, and he's just like, oh, that was me, because they don't understand that. It's just a thought or an idea in their mind. I mean,
I don't know if we've had the conversation before, but me personally, I think autism's such a fascinating thing, because
absolutely
they have such a, yes, there's points of their brain and points of their life that they're not the best at, but they have a certain point that they're so good it's almost superhuman.
Right, right.
And the thought of maybe is that autism is necessarily looked at as a disability.
It's
but,
an ability.
But what if it's a portion of our head that we can't unlock as normal, and
Right.
they've unlocked it, but because of that, it's now pulled functionality from another area.
And that makes perfect sense. I mean, you figure a car's engine
Mm-hmm.
only has enough power to power certain things until you overload it and something has to shut down.
Right.
You know? And it's the same concept. I mean, they said, hundreds of years ago, I don't know if it was Einstein or whoever, where, they was talking about we only use a certain percentage of our brain and this and that. And that also boiled down to seeing entities and, like, if you're sitting in, wherever and all of a sudden you think that you've seen something go by and you know that there's nothing there.
Right.
And it's just that split second timing that your brain all of a sudden can operate at a higher efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
and you pick up on something really fast, and then all of a sudden, it goes away because your brain can't keep up to that capacity. Whereas autism, it's a high probability that it does shut down, a part of that brain maybe, and it's like now it's super firing on all the others. Like,
Right.
there's actually a guy. He's a boxer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fought on our shows once or twice. I met him through one of our shows. And great guy. He's got autism. He's I forget what his record is now, but he fights street beefs. And I
Street
think
beef.
he's 17 or 18-1 or 19-1 or something like that. I don't know. But his passion is boxing,
Mhm.
and he has his hard days. He does like live stuff every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his way of coping with life, but he's really good at it. So I mean, it's pretty cool,
Street. He does street beefs.
Yes.
That's the craziest thing. That's actually that's a thing. Like, it's happening.
Yeah.
Like, you had the Kimbo Slice backyard fighting, and
Yep.
I mean, sure, it was entertaining, and it was just two dudes showing up. You had Jorge Masvidal out there, Kimbo
Yeah.
Slice, and it was never in a ring or
Mm-mm.
it was go to
Just
somebody's
literally in the street.
backyard.
Yeah.
There was the one where Kimbo fought that I don't know if he was a retired police officer or something, but it was in some type of
Yeah.
weird gym.
Yeah.
It was-
No, that was like in a basement of a parking garage or something.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
It was something weird.
Yeah.
And they would just show up and just people would throw money down and fight. And now, I'm sure it'd be heavily frowned upon. But now
Oh,
we've got
yeah.
it to where dudes just set up I mean, it's kind of a makeshift cage.
I've seen people just put caution tape up
Right.
and just go somewhere and fight. Granted, it's to get away with it, they have to do an undisclosed location and only tell the fighters where it's at the day of the fight.
Right.
That way they don't get shut down. Which, I mean, it's really silly, that you have to do that because you're not doing anything illegal. You are doing the same
Right.
thing you would in the gym. You're sparring, but only harder. Like,
But it's different if, somehow somebody was put there against their will.
yeah.
But everybody shows up willingly.
It's just like going to the gym. It's just a organized quote unquote event, and everybody would and it's not out of malice or anything.
Right.
The idea behind the street beefs was, if two guys had beef, they'd put the guns down, gloves up type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like their whole concept behind it, which I get. That's kind of what we do. So I'm perfectly fine with that concept. It just don't make any sense why people get in trouble for having, they call it illegal fights, but it's not illegal. I mean,
Right.
only the powers that be are the ones that say, well, that's illegal. I mean,
Now, I'm sure it probably has something to fall into the line of a payment.
well, a lot of those guys, they don't even get paid. I think it's a legality issue. Number one, let's all face it, the state and the government love to get their hands on any kind of money or anything. So they
Yeah,
want
this
to
is
tax
true.
the shit out of you. And so you have to have a commissioner, and you have to have the, boxing commission, athletic commission. Then you got to pay for EMTs and cops, and
Right.
then the state wants their sales tax and their B&O tax, and if you're a vendor and
Then you got the insurance liabilities and
right,
all of that. It should just be as simple as, hey, here's this waiver.
yeah,
Says something happens to you, I'm not responsible.
And it's funny because back in 2000, when I fought on Don Fry's card, down in Texas, I mean, we may have signed a waiver, but we was also betting on ourselves too.
Really?
Like, it was, okay, well, however much money you put in, the guy's going to match it, and whoever wins walks away with the money. And so that was quite cool. Like, but it was all unsanctioned. There's no proof or record of it anywhere.
Right.
Like,
Any video of that?
there is.
All
I
right.
don't have it though.
Oh,
I have been trying for like the past 20 years to find this video,
really?
and I, for the life of me, cannot find it. And you would think, with the internet that we have now, you can find anything.
This is true.
Like, I cannot, for the life of me, find the fight video, and it bothers the piss out of me. Like, all my best fights, I shit you not, something happens where nobody records it.
Man.
And it is the worst curse ever. I mean,
Man.
like that fight, I didn't have anybody with me to record it, but I know they recorded it because, I mean, it was a Don Fry promotion at that time.
Right.
And he had this huge Japanese fighter, but we fought like pancrase rules. It was no gloves.
Oh.
You could slap to the head, just no open or no closed fist.
Closed
But
fist.
you could also elbow, knee, and kick to the head.
Oh.
Yeah, no shin pads, no nothing. It was quite interesting. I won the fight, but I lost the battle.
Oh, yeah.
I wound up getting like 17 contusions on the side of my head, and it was just swollen. And I was actually getting married a week later.
Ooh.
So she wasn't happy with the black eyes that I got. But no, that fight, it's lost in the sauce somewhere. I can't find it for the life of me. And then when I won Golden Gloves back in like 96 or 7 or some crap, my buddies were up in the stands, we had those big old camcorders, I'm like, all right, man,
Oh, yeah.
we're going to record all the fights. And sure enough, I knocked the dude out second round, broke his jaw, busted his nose. I was like, did you get that? Oh, man, I forgot to hit record.
Oh.
Are you freaking kidding me? Same thing happened when I went to Korea. I won their boxing championship or whatever. Knocked both my guys out. No video. I was like, man, what is the luck? Like,
The bad thing is that, going back in time like that, the video quality, like,
it sucks.
it's bad.
Like, I've got an old VHS video from, I've got all my old karate videos.
Yeah.
Like, fighting on the hardwood gymnasium floors and beating the crap out of each other. And you think MMA pads are thin? Those little karate pads, it was like a sock with a little bit of potpourri or something. Like, there was nothing in them damn things. And it was perfectly okay to punch each other in the face. And hell, you'd be getting kicked in the head full force, and they're like, oh, you're fine. Like,
Man.
I mean, the hardest I've been hit sometimes was in them karate tournaments. Like, it was wild. Yeah, the old VHS.
Old VHS. Well, I mean, even like going back and talking about the OXF fights.
Oh, yes.
And what was recording them with? A BlackBerry, maybe a Motorola Razr.
That was, yeah, because it was 2006 and 2007 and 2008, I think.
Yeah, so.
Because it didn't last very long.
You just come across and like, oh man, I can't really tell what's going on here.
Yeah, that was a rough venue, anyways, and it wasn't that big. Like our following, I was really surprised. You'd think like when it first came out, everybody'd be like super pumped, MMA, like, I mean, it was a very small crowd and stuff there from.
Well, I don't know personally. The only reason I knew about it is because there was a couple guys I knew that actually were fighting in it, but
right,
the marketing for it wasn't.
Oh, it was horrible.
Great.
It was horrible. Like, I was fighting on the show, and none of my friends even knew. I had to send out private stuff, because at that time I don't even think Facebook was.
I think it was a thing, but it wasn't.
It was very minimal.
Right.
Like, I don't even advertising or anything. And of course, whatever phones we had at that time, I couldn't screenshot or take a picture, so it was just hop on the computer,
Yeah.
So it was kind of crappy. And it's crazy though, because the amount of people we had then versus what show up now. it's a little bit higher. I don't know. I kind of expected more and more people to be.
Right. Well, I mean, like when you looked at what that event was compared to when we went to everything went to the field house there.
Right.
The field house was
That was the
pretty
packed one.
packed.
Yeah. That was our first field house cage fights. Actually, I think we only did 2 of them there. I do
Yeah.
believe. I was actually scheduled to fight on the first one, and my fighter didn't show up. I was so mad. I was like, man. And that's one where Matt fought at. Actually, all of we had a lot of guys fight on that show.
Right. Wasn't there an issue with Matt? Because didn't he fight?
I think that was the second field house cage fights.
But were they
Might have
not
been.
technically both from the same gym?
Oh yeah. Basically, yeah.
Which was odd.
And unfortunately, that happened a whole lot because I mean, we're the only people within I don't know, at that time when we were all from the same gym. There wasn't anybody else around to fight. I mean, there were some guys down at Butch's gym, but they were doing their own thing at their time. So we pretty much had to pick from ourselves, and then you had to like pick street fighters. Basically tough man fighters that had a little bit of wrestling, and yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Now where we're at today, I mean, how many gyms are here now locally in this area? So now you got yours. There's the Parkersburg Jiu-Jitsu. Isn't there one still in Marietta?
Marietta Combat Sports. Josh Cole.
It's Josh Cole.
There's some other fly-by-night ones. I believe you got like your kung fu places, and I'm pretty sure Joe Bigley may still be teaching at the Y or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's pretty up there. I mean, he was teaching when I was young.
Wow.
So I know there's quite a few that are still doing like these self-defense seminar classes crap.
Steven Seagal.
Yeah, and I think that's what's mostly around right now, other than us.
So who ended up taking over the Parkersburg side? So more or less, pretty much the 3 big branches there were you guys used to all be together, correct?
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of.
Yeah, Parkersburg Jiu-Jitsu has Vienna, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Marietta's got Marietta, and we got pretty much Parkersburg, north and south, I suppose.
The hood.
Yeah, the hood. we're the hood, where it's good. That should be a new slogan. We're all good in the hood. Yeah. You guys, oh man, they wouldn't know unless they were here.
Right.
On a busy, fun, 70-degree weathered evening when they're out and about. It's The Walking Dead.
One thing I can tell is by crackheads and heroin addicts, they walk.
Yes.
They do some walking.
Yes. I never see a fat crackhead.
It's true.
Like
It might be the crack that does it, but they do walk a lot
Yeah.
too. You get good cardio, and I reckon.
Oh, I might get in trouble for saying crackhead not being PC correct.
What do you call them?
They're crackheads.
Well, what's PC?
Politically
No, I
correct.
mean, what's the PC version of a crackhead?
Yeah, exactly. They're addicts.
A crack deficient.
They're something.
That they are. So now, have you ever thought about looking and maybe reaching out and having a cross thing with all the other gyms, getting together and?
There for the longest time, that's what we done. We would do Toys for Tots every year, and we'd all pick a gym and we'd all go and do a Toys for Tots roll. And usually all 3 of our gyms would just kind of do that. And we didn't do it last year with everything going on, but
I imagine this year's not going to be any different.
yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to get all 3 gyms together.
Right.
Unfortunately, because I have to say, that's one thing about like the jiu-jitsu community is everybody's got so much camaraderie. That it's not a big deal to be like, hey, we're going to pack our stuff, take all of our guys, and go up to the gym, in Marietta for a day. And people don't care, they're not going to be like, oh, this is our turf,
Right.
They're more than happy. People want to come in and do stuff with them. So, I mean.
Right. So now, as far as belt rankings, I know that a lot of times with gyms, isn't it the more or less prestigious? The higher belts you have, and the more higher belts you have, doesn't that technically make your gym more desirable? I guess to say.
I would say so. I guess from a different points of view, yeah. I know if I go to a gym, I keep falling back from this microphone, man. I swear. I know if I go to a gym and if I see like nothing but a bunch of white belts, and it's nothing against white belts, because we have some very good ones. But if I'm going to a gym and I see predominantly all white, maybe like one higher ranking or two higher rankings, I might be deterred a little bit just because, for my own needs, I would want someone, higher ranking and give me a little bit more of a variety. But in the same token, too, I look at more body type because I prefer, I, I would like to be able to, train with people my size every now and then.
Right.
It makes it nice. So I guess it is a more preferred thing for people to have higher ranking and stuff. I mean, plus, it shows that your guys knew what they were doing. They've stuck around because if anybody knows jiu-jitsu, you do not get a blue belt in a year.
Right.
Like, that's,
Well, depending, I guess.
well, yeah. I mean, so if I walk in a gym and if I see like one white belt and like 4 or 6 blue belts, I know those guys are pretty serious.
Right.
And that's kind of what it boils down to. Like you can see that, and be like, oh, okay, there's at least like 2 to 3, 4 years experience on each one of these guys, so you can learn a whole hell of a lot, And they're a lot of times they're shoot, what's the word? Uh, Man, it came off the tip of my tongue. Loyal. Yeah, they're loyal to their people and they stick with it. So it shows that you have a good separate group of people.
At least got a solid group that stuck together and
Yeah, yeah,
kept sticking with it.
yeah. If you see nothing but a bunch of white belts with like no stripes, you might want to request or like question why you're there. If there's like one dude that's in charge and everybody else is just like brand new, and you're like, man, are people not sticking around? Why is everybody brand new looking? If nobody knows how to do an armbar properly,
Yeah.
something's up.
So here at this gym, what are you looking at belt rank wise?
Mm.
What is here?
Man, so Joe's purple belt.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a crap ton of blue belts, actually. We've got, man, I'm going to have to use my fingers and toes on this one. I know we got like Wes, Matt, Stephanie, Jared, Steven, Zach, Jake, Josh Vandergriff, Chris Fasnick. I know I'm forgetting some.
I said, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So regardless, it seems that you've got quite a few people
There's like 9 or 11 blue belts here alone.
Yeah.
And everybody else is pretty high ranking on white belts. So, yeah, we have quite a few people. And I would put our white belts even up against most blue belts.
Yeah.
And that's typically what happens anyways. I know I'm hard on my people. Like, I don't believe in just giving them their rank. Like,
Right. Which is a good thing.
oh, absolutely.
So, if you see somebody that's, coming from Ronin Jiu-Jitsu and they've got a blue belt,
right, yeah.
they've earned that blue belt. It's not.
And I'm not saying none of the other gyms, because, I know, like, Marietta specifically, like, they're really hard on their guys, too. Like, for them to
Really?
get ranked, it's pretty tough, as it should be, because by the time you get to blue, you should be developing and harnessing your skills, like, you've went through that white stage of, okay, now I'm not losing every day. So now once you get to blue, then you're just actually starting to learn and work on stuff and actually be a little bit more proficient at it. So, yeah, I can see why a lot of people, of course, back back in the day, it only used to be a white, blue, and blue.
Really?
Yeah. So, and a lot of people didn't know that. Like, your white belt was practically a blue or purple at that time. And then, so your light blue was more or less your purple belts or whatever, purple or brown. And then your dark blue was like your instructor.
Really?
So it
Wow.
was, yeah. If you walked in like an old Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, that's typically what it was. And they started developing more collars for, advancement opportunities and stuff. And
Well, I mean, I think it's also a mindset thing, maybe, because it's always nice to
yeah,
know that
absolutely.
you're going to achieve something versus if I'm looking at this going, all right, I'm a white belt walking in, I'm not getting another belt till what would be a purple today.
Right, yeah.
I got 5-6 years in before I can even think about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're looking at like 10, 15 years for most of them. Like, because you figure at that time frame, if you had 36 relatives and they were all doing the same jujitsu every day, you're like, I'm never going to get,
Right.
like, I'm never going to be high ranking. You're always going to be at the bottom of the totem pole. Even though you were like Hoist Gracie level, you're like a light blue belt. You're like, son of a bitch. Like, I mean, the worst ones, but also really awesome too. So,
I mean, I can say firsthand that it's interesting to see that, you come in and it's more or less just survive.
yeah, survive at least.
Because
The first year is nothing but survival mode. Like, oh my god, I don't want to get choked or, yeah, it's
it's not fun.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting, and that's what people ask, what do I need to expect? I'm like, just expect to lose for the next year. Like, don't even think about trying to win. All you need to do is like just survive. Learn to tap. That's best how you get out of any submission. Just tap. And
I'll tell you firsthand, there's nothing more embarrassing than tapping to something that's not supposed to be a submission. I don't know why, but that hurts really bad. I don't like that.
yeah,
Like I said, I remember when I was first, it wasn't here, it was down at the other one, that when I first experienced, of course, not granted, I'll toss this out there just for a disclaimer, but my ribs were a little bruised. And the first time somebody put a neon belly on me,
oh yeah,
I was like, I can't do this.
yep.
This hurts real bad. I'm tapping. And they looked at me and they're like, really? I'm like, well, that wasn't a submission. Okay.
I mean, if doing it properly, you can make anyone tap from neon belly for the most part. I mean, granted, everybody's got their own ways to make it a lot worse. Like me, I've got really bony knees and
Yeah.
shit, and so I know, where I need to put it to kind of make it hurt a little bit more. And yeah, it's crazy how weird things like that. Like you're just like, oh my god. But I
Right.
mean, if you think of it in a street fight scenario, that's going to hold the person down in general, and put them in pain. The whole pain compliance type deal. Yeah, it's weird, stupid things like shoulder pressure. Like you wouldn't think just shoulder
Right.
pressure, but my God, I ain't gonna lie, I've tapped from shoulder pressure many a times. And I'm like, I can't breathe, I'm gonna die, and yeah, you about pass out just because they got great side control. I mean,
Yeah.
Gary Hashman is a wonderful man at doing that and trying to kill you from on top. Like even Joe is like, man, that sucks. Like once Gary gets on top, it's just he has this crazy amount of pressure that he can apply, and it's like, okay, I give up. Like you just have to. It's not a submission, but damn it,
Right.
I'm giving in. Jiu-jitsu's funny, man. Like I always thought, if I was ever to be a stand-up comedian, it would definitely be about MMA and jiu-jitsu. Just like,
It's just all kinds of funny stuff that happen.
yeah, I mean, all these other comedians, they talk about, their lives or whatever, and that's how they make their, jokes about. And I'm like, my God, combat sports community in general, there's so many funny, awkward, weird things that happen. Like, and people don't know about it. It's all stuff like behind the scenes and everything. Like, stupid, weird things. I mean, from accidental breakage of bones or, just weird stuff happening all the time. And, people don't see it. And it's just absolutely hysterical sometimes, especially looking back on it. Granted,
Right.
when I broke my eye, it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I did. It was in training. I was training this
Wow.
kid. I was getting ready for my title fight back in 2009, I think it was. And me and this guy was at the very end of training session. We were both slick, and somehow, and it was just jujitsu. We weren't even striking. His knee slid up, caught me right here, broke my
Oh,
orbital bone instantly. It swelled up like a golf ball. It was bad.
man.
It was absolutely horrible. I had no ice at the time too, so that was even worse.
Well, for me, I think one of the first things that was very shocking that you just never really, it's one of the things it's never really talked about or anything.
Mm.
But the first time that I'm on the ground and a butthole is 2 inches away from my nose,
Right.
and I'm like, no, what is this?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why is this a thing? I was like, I'm contemplating life right now. I've made poor decisions.
Yeah, what did I do in my life to wind up here with this grown ass man sitting on top of me as he is sweating down into my mouth and I'm screaming for help, but yet I don't want to give up. What the
Right.
hell is wrong with me? Poor life decisions have put me here.
And then you come back.
Yeah, you come back with a smile on our face and be
That's
like,
it.
let's do it again. I'm going to shake your hand and let's agree to stick our asses in each other's faces. That's what we're going to do for the
Correct.
next 2 hours. Like,
So now, as far as classes and everything like that, I mean, what are your requirements? Because I know personally, when I first was talking to you about trying to come down, I fear I'm
Right.
not a small guy,
yeah.
so it was a lot of inhibitants of maybe this isn't for me.
My only requirements, honestly, is a willingness to be humble, I guess, is the best concept. I don't ever want anybody to expect anything. Because whether it's high or low expectations, you're not going to be correct. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Unless you have expectations of getting a butthole in your face, you might.
Exactly.
get that.
I mean, MMA is quite the interesting concept, Yeah, I don't tell anybody to have really any expectations other than tap early, tap often, just get used to sweaty people being wrapped around your body and pajama hugs. Like,
Pajama hugs.
we're all hanging out. And I guess that's, from an outsider's point of view, like, they're probably like, man, that's so gay. And, if you think about it, right? So if we took two of us in our just jujitsu uniforms and we went out in the street, just in the middle of the street, and we started doing jujitsu out there, dude, there would be like, they'd be like, oh my God, these two, like, we'd be on the news, like two gay guys in the middle of the road trying to screw each other. Like, there's something weird, they're choking each other out and smiling. Like, this other guy's humping him and grabbing his ankle, and now his butt's in his face. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Like, they're trying to make a porn out here, Like, that's exactly what, especially, with our no-gi stuff. Jesus, I've never
Right.
seen so many people wear skin-tight clothing that weren't supposed to in my entire life until jiu-jitsu. And then you're just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't judge anybody. I've got my short Valley Tudo shorts. I love wearing,
It's just a thin piece of fabric from a gay porno. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think about it. Like, I mean, my God, if you've seen two guys like that wearing mustaches on the beach doing the same thing, you'd be like, yep, that's what's happening. You're going, brown, check it down,
Now your class is here 5 days a week.
Well, technically, 7.
Technically 7.
Yeah, each day is slightly different. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is just jujitsu
Mm-hmm.
at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
Now Tuesdays is 5 o'clock kickboxing, and then I do privates all day long. Fridays MMA at 6:30. Saturdays at 10 a.m. is cardio kickboxing, and Sundays at 1 is MMA. And then we got kids classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 o'clock.
All right.
So
if anybody would like to come down, of course, I guess either message you or check the Ronin website on Facebook to see what regulations are to come down in this time of need and
yeah,
all of that.
I suppose I could hit on that for a smidge quick minute because I'm not getting into the whole pandemic crap. So in regards to the pandemic at hand, it's like this. We do have a sign up. It says, wear a mask. It doesn't matter. Just wear a mask, whatever. Okay. Y'all are adults. You know what is right and what is wrong. Okay. we ask that you wear a mask when you come in the building.
Mm-hmm.
We do have social distancing stickers on the mat, so they are more than 6 feet apart from one another. And it was quite funny because when the kids first seen them, they're like, "But coach, how do we do jujitsu if we can't be with our partner?" Like,
Gotta love the kids, man. Gotta love the kids.
I'm like, "You got a point. You're going to choke yourselves." They're like, "What? You're just going to do jujitsu with yourself from now on?" Well, that doesn't make sense. I want to wrestle. I'm like, well,
Yeah, that's
talk to the governor.
Jim
No.
Justice.
But we do ask that minimal parents or standbys go outside, wait in their cars or whatever, just to keep the community down.
Right.
There's plenty of space for people to do distancing here, in between both rooms that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of room.
Plenty.
Like we was doing our cardio kickboxing this morning, and not one person came within 6 feet of the other. I don't think, other than us holding mitts. But I wore a mask. She wore a mask. Everybody wore a mask. So
So it's safe down here.
yeah,
But
yeah.
a lot of disinfecting and everything like that. But if you'd like to come down, so I know that personally I'm one that likes to do gi.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Mondays and Wednesdays with the gi,
Yes.
of course the Tuesdays, Thursdays are no gi. To my understanding, there's a whole nother crowd that does no gi, and probably I wouldn't know half of them.
Yeah, that's the funny part about the jiu-jitsu community. Is just you'll have guys that will never come to a no gi class ever. They're like, fuck that. And then there's guys that are strictly gi class, and they will be at the same gym for a year or two, and they'll be like, when did you start here, bruh? I've been here for this long. Like really? Oh, it's quite comical sometimes. Two worlds collide,
Right.
The gi versus no gi, that's 10th Planet versus IBJJF. You talk about, when you talk about, that's like talking about religion and politics. I swear, because they are as hardcore about that as they are with like politics. I mean,
Really.
it is absolutely, well, I mean, you have someone like, Eddie Bravo, and then you have, I forget. I'm not sure who would be a good gi person. Keenan Cornelius, or like Clark Gracie or someone.
I figured Gracie's.
Yeah, Gracie.
Any Gracie.
Yeah, yeah. So when you look at those two separate worlds, strictly gi versus strictly no gi, like they will preach and preach and preach. Well, mine's better. No, mine's better. This is better. Or that's impractical. Like, but I have a solution.
Oh boy.
I have the solution, my jiu-jitsu friends. I don't know if I want to tell them though.
Well,
Cause see,
we
I'm trying to work on something. It's a combination of everything.
we could keep it on the down low. Just know that it's
I'm trying to get
Potential.
it in the works, and I don't want it to slip out because one of you other guys out there will probably take my idea and run with it, and I'll be stuck in the sauce. But then again, if I said it now, then it would already be out in the open, and I already pinned it.
Well, I mean, out in the open. I know that it's been talked about. I think we've had the conversation prior to.
Right.
So I'll be glad to be the one that says, no, we talked about it. But so
Yes.
you hear it first. Ryan Carroll's out there trying to unite the religion and politics of jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
Make them into one.
Make them into one and show. In my idea, there's a supreme one,
Okay.
and it's where they're combined
Mm-hmm.
with a third entity.
Okay.
And
Uh-oh.
it's I think when those two worlds collide with that third, yeah, I guess I got to say it now, man.
Do you? I mean, it's up
I
to
gotta
you.
say it.
We go
So
spill the beans.
this is the beans, right? The concept is you take gi
Mm-hmm.
and you take no gi, right? The third thing that you have to combine is combat jiu-jitsu. Now, how does this work, you ask? Or how does this affect both worlds, right? You got the no-gi who, they slip and they slide and they can move around, and they're used to, leg locks and everything else, and
Right.
they're used to combat jiu-jitsu style stuff. Now, you take gi, strictly gi. They're not used to striking. They're not used to leg locks and gi. They're not used to leg locks really in general as far as like heel hooks or anything. So when you combine, gi versus no gi, now the no gi guys can't slip away and there's crap to get a hold of. So you can't slide out. But on the same token, the gi guys have to worry about heel hooks and leg locks and stuff that they're not accustomed to in the gi because, it's looked down upon because of the friction. Totally understand that. But that's what makes it the most ideal concept because if you put those two worlds, gi and no gi, right, and you have no regulations, and you add the third entity of being able to strike, what does that give you? The most realistic street fight out there.
Absolutely.
Because why do we just do only IBJJF Jiu-Jitsu? It's silly because half the stuff that you're going to do doesn't prepare you for strikes in a fight.
Right.
Same way with just no-gi because there is clothing involved. People is going to strike you. And you can't just slide away in your little, skivvies. So, I mean, when you combine both worlds and then you are forced as a no-gi guy, now all of a sudden you can't slip away. And they can hold you and strike you. So now you got to change your whole concept, And I don't care who you are. If you're only doing no gi stuff and you have to now all of a sudden worry about a gi, like that's a different world of elements. And then the gi guy stuff, getting struck by wearing a gi. I mean, can you imagine? Getting gift wrapped and someone's got their back and they're just palming the crap out of your head. Like you can't escape.
Right, and I can say personally that rolling with gi and went with Brandon, and he didn't have his gi top on. I'm like, I can't grab nothing. Hey.
Yeah, you can't.
Where's my stuff? I gotta be able to grab something.
And that's why no-gi matches are a little bit more entertaining sometimes, because everybody's just moving at such a fast pace, and it's just bam, 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 bam. But that's why leg locks are so effective, because you can tie someone's legs up and they can't run away. You can grab someone's arm and they can wiggle out. So I think it would be the most tremendous concept out there. And I've been trying to talk with a couple other organizers of events and stuff. So I'm trying to work on getting that accomplished. So if anybody else takes this idea, I will punch you in the throat. And then I'll probably run because you're better than me. I don't know. But hopefully nobody takes this concept. And if you do, at least, involve me. I'm not trying to get rich. I just want to see the worlds collide and actually, show them, yeah, you got gi and your no gi, but let's combine this stuff, and really see how good that jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually kind of contemplating starting to come to no gi due to, it's been long enough now that I feel like in class I'm actually able to keep going versus one row and be like,
right,
done.
Yeah.
So now to add more days to the week, it would be an interesting concept for me.
No-gi is such a different concept, because, your grips are no longer there and you have to rely on more of, using your feet and stuff, to hook and push and control them a lot more with your feet than what you can with your hands,
Right.
It's such a crazy different concept, A lot of your positions and everything's still the same, but, your escapes or just your transitioning in general, now that friction is no longer there, you can escape easier, but you can also get to a better position easier.
Yep.
It's absolutely wild.
My favorite chokes are gone because there's nothing for me to grab a hold of.
Oh, yeah. And see, and that's what it is, too. You have to learn to transition. What would the Ezekiel choke be without my sleeves? What would this be without, my collar? How am I going to choke them now?
I can't do no cross-collar chokes with no collar.
Right, yeah. It limits a lot of the chokes as far as that goes, and you have to rely more on, I would say, and someone's going to, deny it, but I think a good 75% of all the chokes in no-gi is definitely, it's simple. It's only a head and arm. If you can control their head and their arm and wrap one of your body parts around it, you will get a submission. Whether it's one leg, two legs, one arm, two arms, if their arm is up like this or across their throat, you will get some sort of submission out of it. And that's why I was trying to tell people, I don't care if you make something up or not. If it hurts, it works. And that's kind of the concept, if you can, think of all the different submissions just off one arm being across their head. You got your darce, your anaconda, and guillotine. Just those three right off the rip, and that's all without changing anything other than sliding your knuckles to the front or to the back,
Right.
And then you got your Peruvian neckties, which essentially is the same thing. And then you got different types of guillotine, all off head and arm. You got your head and arm choke. You got a triangle choke, gift wrap. So there's so many variances of just that head and arm.
Right. Well, there you go.
It's simple. Just
You
tie
need-
someone's head and arm.
Yeah. With anything.
Yeah. it don't
Arms,
matter.
legs, rope, whatever you want to do.
Use a lanyard. It's okay.
All right. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you coming on and having a good time. I think it was a pretty good time here.
Definitely. I look like such a midget, too.
Just a little bit.
There's not that much of a size difference for people that's actually watching.
Yeah, I think it's just chairs.
Yeah, my chair's kind of sunk down.
It's just the
and
chair. It's just the angle. The angle of the dangle, if you would. But yeah, so if anybody would like to come down, you're in the Parkersburg area, would like to try some jiu-jitsu, I can tell you firsthand that it's worth it. I know a lot of times with me, as you can see, I'm not the skinniest fella. Big issue is maybe I'm not in shape enough. Maybe there's nobody else there that's my size or anything like that. And to much to my surprise, that was not the case. So I would recommend to anybody, whether you're skinny, big, tall, short, in shape, not in shape, scared to death of people beating the crap out of you, come down. It's worth it. Worth every second of it. I enjoy it. Like I said, I look forward to the days that are jiu-jitsu days, and I hate the days that aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's usually what everybody says. They're like, "Man, I hate that I can't go to the gym today," or I missed class and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, it's more than a physical thing. It's a mental,
Right.
nice little mental outlet.
And if you got kids,
Yes.
bring them down. The kids' classes are excellent. I've also got a child in the kids' class as well, and I couldn't be happier with that. He's loving it, loves every second of it. So.
Yes.
If you have kids, and I know sometimes sports right now are not available for kids right now. So if you would like to get your kid active, come on down. In the Parkersburg area, I don't know the address here.
It's 1739 St. Mary's Avenue. If you can find PHS, and if you can find the Go Mart on 16th Street or
19th.
whatever, 19th or
19th?
something.
No, it's 16th. It is 16th.
Something
The
like
Ghetto Mart.
Yeah, just get on Dudley Avenue. Like, if you get on Emerson and Dudley, just keep going, and you'll find us eventually.
Right
I
across the
promise.
street from Hertz.
Yeah, usually we have a big white MMA sign glowing up the parking lot, or just look for the American flag, or look for people punching and kicking stuff.
There you go. Out in the parking lot. That's just.
Yeah,
Those are the crackheads, but we do it inside too. I swear.
Yeah, if you see people fighting outside, that's pretty typical. So don't mind them. That's
All right. Well, like I said, once again, Ryan, thanks for coming on to the podcast, and
always a pleasure.
hopefully we'll see you guys down here at some point. Ronin Jiu-Jitsu,
Bam, right there.
and I'll catch you guys later.